Guys, welcome into the Gashouse Gang. We got Tom Ackerman, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. The Gashouse Gang is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling and my friends at Game Day Men's Health. You can find them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. I was just there yesterday. Everything went well. We got a lot to do today, guys. I mean, we got obviously Cardinals baseball to talk about. The NCAA tournament's going on right now. We probably won't touch too much on that because games are happening, but Mizzou plays today. SIUE plays coming up really just not long after we wrap up. They take on number 1 seed Houston. Illinois plays tomorrow. So we're full on into March Madness. The Blues have their biggest game of the regular season tonight, and opening day is 1 week from today. I'd say this is a pretty good sports day, guys.
Other than that, what's going on?
Yeah, there is actually. This is going to be today and tomorrow are going to be the last Gashouse gangs that are not live on KMOX. Both on 104.1 FM, which we're launching at midnight, Sunday night into Monday morning, and also on 11:20 a.m. So this will be a live radio show in addition to what you're experiencing now. It'll still be podcasted and all that. And on Monday, Matt Pauley and I will be debuting the new show, which is the Redbird Rush Hour, starting in the 5 o'clock hour. So that'll be every day after DGS. So we've got normal stuff. I know we announced this on the air yesterday, but for anybody that's just tuning in, TIAM go until 9 a.m. Chris and Amy. This just in. Chris and Amy going 9 till noon. And then we have the Gashouse Gang, which is still going to include all of us, but it'll also include Chris Ranji every day, who's going to be in there, Mike Claiborne. And for those that don't know Ranj, obviously he's worked in sports radio forever. He did the White Sox pre- and post-game for a long time when he was just out of college. So this is right up Ranj's alley. It's going to be a great mix there, and we'll all mix in there too. But Tom, you'll be more regular than Matt and I, because Matt and I, we're going to be the night crew. Yeah. And then we got, after that, it's DGS. After DGS, it's the Redbird Rush Hour from 5 to 6. And then after that, it's either Cardinals baseball or it's my guy Matt with Sports Open Line. So we're taking it big next week, boys.
Yeah, we're going to have a great time. I am very proud of everybody behind the scenes who made this happen. Also for our listeners to make this happen. I have a great respect for the Cardinals fans and our listeners, and they caught on to the Gashouse Gang right away. In fact, I see a lot of people commenting to Bernie saying that their content is his videos and listening to the Gashouse Gang. Yeah. I think that's cool. It's a great way to take in Cardinals. I think, it's very honest conversation. I think we all come at it from different views, and I really love the fact that we are going mainstream over the air with this show. So it's going to be very, very special. I look forward to it. And, with the format now, you can pull some guests in. You mentioned some of the things that we're going to do. It's going to be incredible.
Yep, going to be awesome. So that starts Monday.
Did somebody just say I look like Bradley Cooper?
Yeah. In the Hangover. There you go.
Yeah, right.
Good job. That would be left foot commenting. Cole Bassett's left foot.
Okay. I mean, I think it's spot on. The shirt, Tom. You've got the polo, but the buttons a little bit
disheveled on the top, just a little bit. Is that Florida windblown? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a little breezy down here. I think once you get down here, you just don't care.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
At that point, everybody's got the beach blown hair or whatnot. So who cares?
Awesome. All right, so that's the business side of this. We'll remind you guys of it tomorrow, but nothing changes really. It just gets bigger. And we're adding another sports show at the end of the day, leading into Cardinals baseball and leading into Sports Open Line. So that's going to be fantastic. Let's dive in on Cardinal stuff, man. We're a week away from opening day. We've got today, tomorrow, the weekend, and then Monday night in Memphis. And then we're getting ready for the regular season. The final roster is going to be set here in the not too distant future. So we don't have to worry about too much more waiting on that stuff. But I did want to start with this because I think there's a lot of fascinating things going on. And by the way, anybody that has questions, comments, opinions on anything, throw them at us in the comments. We'll bring them in. We'll try to bring them in where they fit, but if they don't fit, we'll just make space for them a little bit later on. But I find it interesting that we're in a really similar place this year as we were last year when it comes to divvying up playing time, right? There's always this puzzle because, the positioning of it, when we've talked a lot about Victor Scott in center field, a lot of the positioning of it on social media or and amongst fans, not all fans, but certainly some, is that it's a choice between Victor Scott and Michael Ciani, but that doesn't appear to be it. It seems like it's more of a choice between playing Victor Scott and also having enough at-bats that they want for Burleson and Gorman. Because one of those guys probably goes to the bench if Victor Scott's playing center field. And a lot of fans are okay with that. Totally up to you, your opinion. But the team clearly wants those big bats in the lineup. And I find it interesting that, without an Arenado deal, we're kind of in the same spot as last year, where we have too many guys for spots and somebody deserving is going to be left out.
Yeah, it's a problem that's going to work itself out on its own at some point, because that's how it is in baseball.
That's true. Dude will probably get hurt, right?
Yeah, we can sit here on March 20th and talk all we want about it. I'm pretty sure it's going to work itself out at some point in time. But I think you're right, Kevin, because we talk a lot about Michael Ciani and his role in this thing. It really feels like your choices are go with Victor Scott II in center field, and then one of those guys that you mentioned might have a hard time getting into the lineup, or have an alignment where you can play Lars Nootbaar in center field a lot, and that pretty much guarantees that you can get both Burleson and Gorman into the lineup on just about an everyday basis. So, I don't know where they're at with Michael Ciani right now, and we know that they love his defense, and for all we know, the opening day group is going to run out on the field, and Michael Ciani is going to take his spot in center field. But to your point, because it does feel like there is value being placed upon the idea of having both Gorman and Burleson in there, really to be able to pull that off, Nootbaar has to play a lot of center field.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Tom, but I'm okay. I like Newt in center. I'm fine with that. I know at times late in games you'll want to go to defense there, but boy, the team finished like bottom 8 or 9 in offense last year, so more bats seems like a pretty good idea.
Yeah, let me preface this by saying that I'm on team Victor Scott here. And
me too.
I want Victor Scott to be the starting center fielder. I think it's fun. I think if you're going to do it anytime, you do it now and let it rip. And if it doesn't work out, you can send him to Memphis for some more seasoning. But I think it'd be fun just to get a little excitement to start the year and see what he can do. Because it's not just because of the spring that he's had, it's because of 2 years that he's had. And I think that, he really has made a big leap in improvement just in his overall game. That said, here's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to start with Nootbaar getting a lot of looks at center field. Michael Ciani is the fourth outfielder, and it allows your left field, and I'm not saying Ciani won't start. He may start, but most likely what it does is exactly what both of you said. It allows Burleson and Gorman to get those at-bats, and Donovan can now play left field. Gorman can DH or play second base, and they have the big thumpers in there. But exactly what Matt said, it's going to work itself out, whether it's an injury or performance-based. If things don't, if Gorman, let's say, is hitting 100 in April, he is not going to continue to be trotted out there, I don't think, and they're going to make an adjustment. But, it's not the end of the world. I'm not having, a conniption over it, but I don't love it. To be honest, I think that Victor Scott is fun. And if you're going to do it, why not do it now? I mean, nobody's expecting the Cardinals to win the NL Central.
Yeah.
That said, I understand the logic. And I'll tell you who's swinging the bat right now is Alec Burleson. I can't leave him out. I mean, this guy is killing the ball right now, and looks like he's on his way to having a very nice 25.
Boy, Tom and you and I couldn't be more aligned on that. I think you're with us, Matt, aren't you? Like,
yeah.
I would love to. I want more fun on this team. I want more energy, more excitement. That's part of what this team is going to need this year. They need to win more, but they also need to be more fun. If I'm writing the lineup, I'll have Victor Scott as my center fielder because I'm fine with Burleson being my first guy off the bench. I think he's a good hitter, but I don't think he has the upside of the other hitters. And this year's about upside. This year's about what's Victor Scott, what's Nolan Gorman, what's Jordan Walker. I think we pretty much know what Alec is. Alec is what he is now. Like, I think he's going to stay that. I don't think there's any down. He's going to be this. And I just don't know that there's a really high ceiling. So if I'm picking, I want Victor Scott. But like you said, Tom, this is where I totally agree. Their approach that they're talking about does actually make sense. It's not crazy. We can disagree with it, but not think it's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. And, Matt, go ahead. But I just, I'm really open-minded both ways here. And, I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, understanding a pathway is important. That's what I always say when we talk about disagreements. Like, you don't have to disagree with people, but understand the path on how they got there. And sometimes there is no path, and then that's where it's hard to have a conversation. But there is a clear and obvious path on why Lars Nootbaar in center field and Burleson and Gorman in the lineup just about every day makes sense. That probably scores you the most runs, or there's more, because we'll see what Scott looks like. I don't think Scott's going to be the guy during the regular season that he's been all spring, but maybe he will be some version of that. Maybe the adjustments he made with Ryan Ludwig last year, and that we saw a glimpse of at the end of the regular season last year, maybe that is real, and he is just this very dynamic player. This is where this season is weird, because you have the stated goal of runway for young players, so that is obviously going to be pro Scott. You got a manager who's probably managing for his job, and he wants to win as many games as he possibly can. So if you do that, you might be pro Nootbaar in center field, because you feel like that's going to be the group that scores you the most amount of runs and wins you the most games. But at the same time, you've got a manager who seems very loyal to Michael Ciani, who of everything is probably the guy who's going to win you the least amount of games. So it's a weird situation.
Look at that, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. That is kind of the look you're sporting, the shirt and everything. All right. It's the Gashouse gang. Tom Ackerman, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling and my friends at Game Day Men's Health. All right. So I want to
real quick, by the way, for people listening on the radio, we just saw a picture of Tom.
I take that as
blue shirt, windblown hair.
Yeah.
I take that as a compliment. I mean,
he's not as good looking as you, Tom, but it's pretty similar.
My hair was getting that long a few years ago. I had a little bit of flow.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. So I'm going to start this with a rant, and I want your reaction to this. I think you guys will agree with me in simple terms, because this is not about an argument against Victor Scott or an argument for someone else. But for God's sake, please stop throwing spring training batting average at me as your argument for somebody. Stop doing it. It's stupid. I mean, Dylan Carlson crushed spring training last year. What did it mean? It meant nothing. Can we please just stop doing that? There's a great argument for Victor Scott that's not based on his spring batting average. You know, you do a little work, man. You can see he's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting the ball hard frequently. His defense has gotten better. He's taking the pitches he's supposed to take. He's swinging at the ones he's supposed to swing at. The spring batting average doesn't matter. Stop using that. And by the way, on the same token, while I'm ranting, why does Nolan Gorman's tough time last year still matter, but Victor Scott being completely overmatched last year doesn't matter? I mean, if last year matters, then it matters. If you don't think it does, that's fine too, by the way. I'm in that category. I don't connect last year to now. Nolan, we're going to talk more about Gorman in a minute. I don't think Victor Scott's the same hitter that he was this time last year. I think he's better than that. But if you look at numbers alone, he stunk last year, and he stunk at Memphis too. So why do Nolan Gorman's stinky numbers matter more to everyone else? And knock my mic over. I'm so mad. Why do his stinky numbers matter more than Victor Scott's stinky numbers from last year? Are we really going to say that 3 weeks of spring training changes that?
You just said it, Kevin. You answered your own question. I don't even think you realized that you did, because you said that Victor Scott II isn't the same hitter that he was last year. And I agree with you. And I think Cardinals fans generally agree with that. I think a lot of Cardinals fans are worried that Nolan Gorman is the same hitter that he was in his final 4 weeks of the season last year, and that's the fear. So I think it all comes down to that. Cardinals fans think that Scott's a different guy, and they don't think that Gorman is.
Based on 4 weeks of spring stats when you're facing minor league pitching.
Yes.
Yeah. Tom? Any sense being made there, or am I just losing my mind? I think Tom froze. He's just sitting there. If you guys are watching, this is the best. If you're listening on the radio, we're going to keep it moving because we don't want to go there. But Tom's camera's frozen. We lost him. We might be getting him back here in a second. We'll get Tom back in a minute. Let's throw this comment in there for a second because it continues this conversation. Thomas messages us and says that it's all about momentum. Thomas, I'm not trying to be a jerk, man. You're one of our regulars. You're one of our favorites. You're here every day. We love you, man. Momentum does not carry over from one season to the next. It does not carry over from spring training to opening day. Sometimes it does. More often than not, it doesn't. And, you know, the old baseball cliche is momentum is only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. Right? You know what I mean? Like the point is that it changes every day based on matchups and things you can't always control. You can't, if we did this, if we were saying last year carried over to this year, well, then we would be writing off a large portion of the team. There we go. Tom's back. For those watching, Bradley Cooper's on our picture or on our screen. But like the hard part here is like, to me, one of the most important things when it comes to evaluating sports, when you're talking about performance of players and teams, is trying to make sure you're consistently applying the same standards in all cases, right? Yeah. So if last year matters for one guy, then it should matter for the other. And 3 or 4 weeks of spring training don't change anything. To truly know how good someone is, you got to have a season or 2 or 3 or 4. And we can dovetail this, Matt, into the conversation that I had thrown out there about Nolan Gorman. Why does it seem like Nolan Gorman's good performances in 2022 and 2023 are just completely thrown out the window?
Can I touch on one real quick thing before we get to that?
Sure.
Because I think this is a really important thing, and you kind of glossed over it. Baseball, more than any other sport, is one where things don't continue. I have this conversation before every single postseason. You might have a strong finish to the season and have a great postseason or a bad postseason. You might have a great finish to the season and have a good like statistic analysis has been put together showing that there's zero correlation between how you finish a season and whether or not you are going to play well in the postseason. And it's the same thing with spring training. It's the same thing from one season to the next season. And I know there are times where people are going to say, well, look, they were playing well, an individual or a team was playing well, and then they carried it into. Well, there's just as much of a chance of the opposite of that happening, and people glom on to the times where they kind of goes along with whatever their bias is, and it doesn't exist. And when you take a step back and look at all the research and all the data and see that it is a complete and total crapshoot to kind of just augment that a little bit, Kevin.
Yeah, and Alan threw this message in. Welcome back, Tom. We got you back. You froze there for a minute.
It was my iPhone told me that it was too hot.
I got you.
Temperature things. So I had to cool.
So we put Bradley Cooper up on the screen for you.
I think it was your rant actually.
I probably got a little too loud and heated up. But as our conversation, Matt or Tom, we were talking about how things can or cannot sometimes do or do not carry over from one year to the next, from spring training to the next. And Alan made this really good post. He said Goldie was MVP in 2022. Then look at 2023. It didn't carry over from one year to the next. Same thing for Arenado. And then last year it didn't carry. Like, that's normal. That's a good point, Alan. Absolutely appreciate that. Lauren, another one of our regulars, every day with us. We appreciate you, Lauren. Love you. Says batting average start to matter in the regular season starting next Thursday. Sorry. They do. But I think this is a fun thing to talk about because batting average, I know forever has been kind of a go-to conversation piece. And I can't recommend enough for people to just stop that, because like batting average only matters within the context of other things.
Let me just counter with this though. It is something tangible that people, you just said it, it's something we know, it's sort of ingrained in us. And it's, we do TV games. What do they show on the screen? They show batting average. They don't show barrel rate. So
but they're starting to show more now, though.
I know, no, but they don't. Like when games are on TV, they don't say, and here's Nolan Gorman with a barrel rate of blah blah blah. Like they show his batting average. So it's just something to present. Now it's upon you to process it and what you use it for. Really, how do you judge these guys? Couple things. Eye test for one. You can tell if a guy, is doing well or not, but mostly it's about
most people aren't trained to do an eye test though. Most people don't even know what they're looking at when it comes to eye test.
Let me finish.
No.
So yes. So I like to lead with that. So eye test, if you're watching a player, some of us can tell whether we think a player, especially a scout, an old school scout, can tell. But mostly what these guys are judged on and why they make the team is barrel rate, exit velocity, chase rate, all the things that they can analyze today. They have much more access, even more than we have public access to. They can analyze the player. Kevin's very good at it. Matt looks at it, is very good at it as well. I love to take a look at those things. I don't judge everything on that, but they absolutely are paying attention to that. Michael Ciani is absolutely struggling at the plate. You don't need batting average to tell you that. You can see it in other analytics and again, eye test. But you know what? It doesn't like bother me that people look at Victor Scott's batting average and get excited. It is exciting that he's hitting home runs, but understand also against that also needs to be taken into consideration.
Right, and I think the problem though is like the batting average is the crux of the argument that's being used in a lot of these cases. But without context, it doesn't matter. If you hit 300, but you hit 4 home runs and you never walk, that's not as valuable as a guy who hits 300 with 25 home runs and a good walk rate. Like they're different players. One guy's a $25 million player. The other one's an $8 million player.
Yeah, right. And if you hit 300, if you hit 300 against, spring training pitchers in the 8th inning, or the top 5 in the rotation against, the Atlanta Braves. I mean, it's a little bit different.
Totally.
We think of Luis Arraez as being the best hitter for average in baseball, and it feels like in many ways we have learned that impact is not the same impact as somebody who's going to go hit 260, but get you some doubles and get you some home runs and drive in runs.
I mean, compare what Luis Arraez gets paid in his place in the game to Kyle Schwarber. Yeah. Kyle Schwarber's going to hit 230, but he's going to hit 45 bombs and walk 100 times. He is a wildly more valuable player than Luis Arraez. And now, again, all of it's context, though. This is kind of my point. Like, a batting average does matter because it's a component of those other things, right? Like, it matters just like, if you say 2 + 3 = 5, well, the 2 matters, and so does the 3 because they're a part of the 5. Like, it is a part of it, but it can't be like, this is my argument. He's hitting for a higher batting average, therefore he should be there. Especially not, as you point out, Tom, not in spring where sometimes it's against real guys and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and the game has changed also. I think that, back when we were kids, Kevin and Matt, Rob Deere versus Wade Boggs. You take Wade Boggs all day long. But if you looked a little deeper into the numbers, I'm not sure that Rob Deere was walking as much as Kyle Schwarber.
No, no, he wasn't. Rob Deere was just he was a big wind factory.
Yeah.
It's funny the way that plays out.
Yeah, one of the when I was working in Milwaukee, this was a complaint I got on the postgame show all the time. David Stearns was the president of baseball operations there at the time, now at the Mets, and he made it his personal goal to try to educate baseball fans on how front offices are viewing players and how they evaluate players. So on the scoreboard where they listed the lineup, where it would normally have their average afterwards, it changed to OPS. So the most notable place where you would see stats on the scoreboard for a hitter, where we've always seen batting average forever and ever and ever, it changed to OPS. And the whole goal was to try to help fans understand how players were being evaluated. And to this day, there are people who are angry about that, and they would call in and everything. So it's a battle. Like there's and OPS is not exactly some newfangled crazy sabermetric stat. I mean, it's a pretty basic thing. But even that is something that there is a contingent of fans. Can you imagine if the Cardinals did that? If on the scoreboard it listed OPS instead of batting average next to somebody's name?
It should. I know it's funny to me. Like this is like raging against any form of technology. I don't want streaming TV. I want old school cable. Well, it's not coming back, man. It's not coming back. You can rage all you want, but that thing's not. You still have to keep up. Like when any technological advantage, a lot of people are like, I don't need any internet on my phone. Guess what you have on your phone now? Everybody has the internet on their phone, right? It's one of those things that it's pointless to fight against, and it's not hard to do. It's not hard to just go, wow, doubles and triples matter and walks matter. What did you learn in Little League? Walks as good as a hit. I mean, we learned that when we're 8.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like my daughter when I was complaining about how I can't go from one streaming service to the next to watch games. I'm like, I used to flip through the channels and I could watch. She goes, Dad, you had like 4 channels.
Yes.
She's like, Dad, we can literally click this and start the movie whenever we want to. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Our kids are always the best reset on those things, aren't they? They're always the best. They put us all in our place. Wait a few years, Matt. You'll get that. It's not quite there yet, but when your kids get to be about, what do you say, Tom? About 10, they can start to kind of reset you and those types of things. And then when they're teenagers, just forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
And then, by the way,
they're at it. I'm right in there right now at 18 and 14.
And by the way, when they're in their 20s, it goes back the other way and it gets easier again, just so you know. Just want to make sure you know that's coming. Tom Ackerman, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. It's the Gashouse Gang, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling and my friends at Game Day Men's Health, and you can find them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, we got distracted from the Nolan Gorman thing, but that's
Sorry,
good.
That was my fault.
Well, no, it was everything. We had the technological problems, and we had a comment that was really good, a couple of really good comments. And Lauren, your comment was great because it set off a great conversation. We know you don't take batting averages, everything. It's just, boy, do I get a lot of that beaten on me on Twitter, and I probably take a little bit too much of it seriously. But Tom, you missed it, so I'll pose it again about Nolan Gorman. Because what we have with Nolan Gorman is a couple of really extreme, short times last year where he stunk. I mean, like, he was bad. He was really bad in June, and he was so bad in August they felt like they had no choice but to send him down. But I'm a little surprised at how quickly how quickly so many people just want to move on from him, or they don't want to account for the 2 previous years when at ages 21, 22, he was a really good hitter. Why do you think that we've kind of gone down this path, you guys? Why is it that Nolan Gorman is already at age 24 somebody that people are like, done with that guy?
Because there's no position for him. Because Weatherhold is the second baseman of the future, and the DH looks like there's like 10 of them right now, and Arenado's still there, and there's no place for him really. I don't know. I mean, I saw a couple of things that he did. He's been hitting to the opposite field. The best thing he did for me all spring training was when they shifted him and he smacked the ball into left. I thought that was great. Reached out and hit a pitch out into left field. So, we're starting to see some signs, but just I'd give it time and let him hit and give him some ABs at the major league level. And if it doesn't work this year, then you can start talking about whether you're going to move him or move on or whatever it is. But the guy can hit. We've seen it before. He has big time power and actually fields his position pretty well. I mean, he's not like a terrible player. I mean, he's a guy who actually has incrementally gotten better in other areas of his game. While he took a step back last year, certainly in chasing pitches. He's got to figure that out. Wait for your pitch, or, just don't swing at that pitch that's down and away. You're just not going to get it.
I think it's a combination of 2 things. First off, there were some people that even when Gorman was at his best just did not like him because of the amount of times he strikes out. And there's a lot of baseball fans, especially old school baseball fans, who just cannot stand strikeouts. And anybody who strikes out 1.5 times per game, no matter what the other numbers are, they're just not going to be accepting of it. So he was already behind the 8 ball for a certain contingent of fans because he is going to strike out a lot. That's part of it. And then the second part is when it got bad last year, guys, it got really, can you think of a Cardinal in the last 10 years who looked more lost than Nolan Gorman did? I mean, it was really, really bad for him. So there's a lot of people who already had that kind of negative disposition against him because of the strikeouts. And then it just looked terrible for him before they made the decision to send him down.
Yeah, it's fascinating too, because, in 2023, again, I know this actually, the reason I wanted to bring these 2 things up near each other, the batting average thing and Nolan Gorman, is because I think you're right, Matt. I think it's the strikeouts, and I think it's people say, well, he only hits 230. Well, again, so does Kyle Schwarber. Who cares? I threw this out there off the air yesterday, so I'll throw it at you guys. What if Nolan Gorman is just Max Muncy? Is there anything wrong with Max Muncy? Because he's a low batting average, high strikeout, home run hitter. And he's played third and second for one of the best teams in baseball for a long time. He was a late bloomer. At 24, Max Muncy was in Double-A, if I remember correctly. Maybe Triple-A, but he certainly wasn't an everyday player in the big leagues and hadn't had the track record that Gorman already has. And so what if he's just that? What if he's just the 230 guy that hits 25, 30 home runs? And if he does what you're talking about, Tom, which he did in 2023, which is just lay off those crappy ones, because in 2023 his on-base percentage was well above league average. He was a really high-end on-base guy as far as the comparison to his batting average, right? So it's not that hard to see. But what if he's just Max Muncy? What if he's just that? Is there anything wrong with that?
No, there isn't. The only difference is, do you say like, boy, the Dodgers, if they're going to be good this year, Max Muncy's going to have to deliver for him. He benefits from a heck of a cast around him, where Gorman, I think, there's pressure for sure. He's going to have to be good if they want to be good. I know I saw the comment just now about there is a place for Gorman, 3 different spots. That's my point. There's not like a regular place for him right now. So I think some fans are like tending to want to throw him away, where I think that if he was able to settle in on one position, maybe there would be a little more lead, time, the ability to watch him play a little bit more. I don't know. It's a tough deal. I think, Gorman maybe is what he is, as you mentioned. Maybe he is just a player who can hit for power. You're going to have to live with the strikeouts. He's not going to be the batting champion, but he's a guy who can hit 30. And he's somebody who can be serviceable at multiple positions. Kid's super strong. People like being around him. He hopefully has a nice long career.
It's just funny, when you look at it, like, I think you nailed it, Tom. And this is part of the problem with this team. In fact, why don't we do this? We'll just reset it. It's the Gashouse gang, Matt Pauley, Tom Ackerman, Kevin Wheeler. And we can finish on this topic, because I think this is maybe the biggest one of all. There's a lot riding on the performance of the young guys for this year. But the problem the last 2 years was not the young guys. The problem was that your stars weren't stars. So Max Muncy's fine being Max Muncy, because Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani is Shohei Ohtani. So Muncy can just hit 6 and hit home runs, and it doesn't matter. And I think that's probably the biggest story of the last couple of years for the Cardinals. It's the end of the era for guys like Wainwright and Molina, and the guys that were to bridge the gap as the stars diminished really fast, and your stars haven't been stars. And right now, the only guy that might be that is Contreras.
Yeah. I can't add on to that. It's very true. And that we don't talk. I know we talked about Contreras yesterday on the show, but man, we don't talk about this guy enough, because Gorman and Walker are going to largely determine if the Cardinals offense can be better this year. But if this team is actually going to exceed expectations, the one kind of given that you have in the lineup is Contreras. We should be talking about him. The way we talked about Goldschmidt and Arenado last year going into the season, we should be talking about Contreras that way this year.
So as in we should be talking about him like at that level, like he should, like, I think here's how I see Contreras. He's a really good player. He's not had really a full season for a long time. I don't even remember the last time he had a season where he played, a full year. He's had injuries, had stuff going on. I think he's super confident now as being a leader on this team. I really feel that way. I think that he feels comfortable being in St. Louis, and certainly that has something to do with the fact that he has switched positions to first base. He is going to have a very good year, and that's kind of where I leave it. I'm not going to say he's going to go hit, MVP type numbers, but I think he's an all-star. And whoever said it, one of you, Kevin said it. If you look at the lineup, who's the one person on this team, you can pretty much take it to the bank. They're going to have a good all-star caliber offensive year. It's Wilson Contreras. The second guy, I think if he played every day, if he was good behind the plate, I would say Ivan Herrera.
Man, he can hit, dude.
That dude looks like a hitter to me. And the guy who's starting to show it, but he's got to play every day, is Nootbaar to me. Nootbaar gets on base a ton. Donovan's pretty solid, but I'm saying like ceiling, Nootbaar has a ceiling, I think, a little higher than most, but he's got to play all the time. But I'm with you on Contreras. This guy, man, he hits the hardest hit ball on the team, even harder than Burleson, I do believe. And
Contreras, by far. Yeah, by far.
Mm-hmm. This guy's hitting 150, 114 rockets off the bat. He's playing a good first base too.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. I think the Cardinals definitely have to get good consistency out of Wilson Contreras. But if they are going to win the NL Central, I mean, I don't have that expectation. I don't know if anybody else does. They're going to have to get contributions from the young guys. It's just the way
Yeah.
what they put themselves in at this point. But it's it's a team last year that if Contreras is healthy, they're a playoff team. I think
Last
they
year,
are.
good
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
Good chance. He was your best hitter, and he missed half the year.
Yeah.
And who knows what things look
has
like
to be-
now?
And that has to be at least 3 games, right? If your best hitter missing half the season doesn't cost you 3 games, I don't know what does.
Yeah. So you're now an 86 win team, and
Not that that's great, but I mean, it's put you in the mix.
But it puts you in the mix.
Yeah.
Long term, though, it might have been a blessing because if they're a playoff team last year, they're probably not holding an end of season news conference saying they're going into a full reset. It feels
they're
very
definitely
different.
not picked number 5 overall.
Right. So
that's going to be a big deal.
If the end goal here is for the Cardinals once again to be legitimate championship contender, well, what they're doing right now behind the scenes and in the lower levels, those are the things that need to happen. So if the results at the major league level the last 2 seasons is what leads to that decision being made, then I say it's a blessing.
Yeah, the major work being done right now is in the minor leagues. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from what's going on at the big league club. I know they're trying to get it all right, and Ollie Marmol is absolutely motivated to be great.
He's got a new boss coming in next year.
He does, and he wants to be good, so he's going to try to win. I think John Mozeliak has assembled a team that, it's been clunky because they tried to trade Arenado. They're kind of caught in between. It just didn't work out very well at all, and so now they're sort of like a team that, we could win. I guess Contreras is back and Gray's back and Helsley's back and Arenado's back. Maybe we should try to, see if we can go get this thing. Let's put Maton in there. And at the same time, you want to develop everybody. The real stuff is going on behind the scenes in the minor leagues. And this is where all of their resources have gone. And what they're trying to accomplish here is build this thing back so that it's a machine again and never have to go back to the repair shop again. This is something that can stand the test of time, which is what they were actually for a long time.
20 plus years, 25 years. All right, last thing. We got 2 minutes, so I'm going to make this quick. This is just rapid fire. We can expand on this later on if you want. But obviously, when we're looking at what the offseason was, this is total Monday morning quarterback. Is it a fair second guess to say you should have had a plan B in place if you couldn't move Arenado to clear up some of this that we're talking about? Should you maybe have had a plan B where you look at trading an Alec Burleson or somebody like that to free up this space the way that we're talking about? Because as it is now, we're not going to see Thomas DeJacy for at least 3 months. I mean, and what do you know about him next year if you don't get to see him at the major league level? Victor Scott might have to wait here at the beginning of the year. Is that a fair Monday morning quarterback, or is it just too much Monday morning quarterback and you just don't know what you don't know?
I still think who would you move? You mentioned Alec Burleson. I still think he's a young enough guy that you want to continue to put him in the future plans moving forward. I don't think moving a young guy to create runway for another young guy seems somewhat counterintuitive.
Well, you'll get something for him though.
Well, yeah, but even if that other young guy has a higher ceiling, like I get the idea behind it, but I'm not going to second guess on this one because I don't think there's a path to go down on that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it tells me that I agree, Matt, but it also tells me that I think they thought for sure they were going to be able to move him. Mm-hmm. And they did actually have a deal with Houston, and he said no to their surprise because he went back on it. Now, it doesn't make Nolan a bad guy. He had a change of heart, whatever. Yeah. Maybe he decided that he wanted to wait and see who else was going to bite, and they got the bite, and it didn't work, and that changed everything. So that was maybe frustrating, but at the same time, now it just is what it is. So, yeah, that's a tough one because I'm not sure. I'm not dead set on, hey, they could have traded X. Like, I don't know who that is. Burleson, maybe Gorman. I don't know. I think that they have right now a situation that is unique to baseball. Not a lot of teams are caught in the middle like this. You're usually one or the other. It's a very strange sort of feeling, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I would throw this in. If you don't start clearing the decks, you're going to be in the same spot next year. because
that's true.
Kaepernick's there and Weatherholt's coming and eventually Chase Davis is coming and you got the 5th pick in the draft. I mean, like this is we've been doing this for like 3 years where it's like, and I know you don't want to trade a guy like Burleson because he's good, but that's the point is he could get you something you don't have because you have other people, Victor Scott as an outfielder and Kaepernick as an outfielder, and obviously others that are in the organization that are going to be rising. But it's a big gamble, right? Because you know he's pretty good.
Yeah. So now what happens at the deadline if they're good? But
maybe that's how you clear the decks. You add somebody good by like a veteran guy. You add somebody. Yeah.
And
well,
if they're not, I think we know.
Hope for that.
If they're sellers, I think we know what the answer is. I think they're going to start clearing space and getting ready for Chaim Bloom and whatever he wants set up for his journey here beginning in 26 that he's already been on now for 2 years. He's been with this team. Tom
Cole Bassett's left foot gets the final word. Tom, give my regards to Mr. Chow.
The foot also thought that I was in Key West, which I'm not. I am still here in Jupiter.
No, but in case anybody missed it, Cole Bassett's left foot earlier said Tom looks like Bradley Cooper in The Hangover. And he does kind of windblown hair, blue shirt, buttoned down a little bit. And that's why he said give his regards to Mr. Chow. So there you go. That's going to wrap us up, Tom, with the shades. Good job, Matt. Good to see you, buddy. You guys enjoy tomorrow. We may have a full cast tomorrow. We'll see how that plays out. We might have a full cast tomorrow. And then next week, obviously, this will be live on the radio on 104.1 FM KMOX and on 1120 KMOX. You guys have a great day, Tom and Matt. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. And we appreciate you. This is the Gashouse Gang.